What up, people? This is Chris Albert. I get a lot of questions about what I read and how I get my ideas and what logic I use to write my diets. I gotta tell you, I don't read a lot of stuff from bodybuilding. I don't read a lot of stuff from even fitness because it's a lot of stuff that, one, you probably heard already, just a regurgitation of stuff that's been done before. Two, a lot of it's stuff that just doesn't work for everybody. Works for some people, but doesn't really work for a whole lot of people who read it, and people spend their money on these magazines, and then you know the rest of it. A lot of you are probably frustrated out there by what you read. This book, on the other hand, Grain Brain by Dr. David Perlmutter, was a fascinating read for me. Basically, Dr. Perlmutter is a neurologist who studies brain dysfunctions, and he treats patients with these types of disorders like Alzheimer's, dementia, schizophrenia, those types of mental illnesses, and he relates them back to a host of studies done over the last 50 years that demonstrates that consumption of gluten and carbohydrates in general leads to total body inflammation. One of the biggest points Dr. Perlmutter drives home is that even if you don't have celiac disease, which is a disease that affects a small percentage of the population, you could be affected by the consumption of gluten because it does cause low-level inflammation in all of us, because wheat, barley, grain, rye, and oats have been mutated so much over the last 50 years to enhance their production, to enhance their ability to sell these products by growing more, that our bodies don't really recognize them anymore as food. They're kind of like a Frankenstein food. And so our bodies tend to get inflamed because of their consumption. And in addition to that, even if you're eating non-gluten carbohydrates or complex carbohydrates or processed sugar, you are increasing the amount of insulin being pumped into your bloodstream, and that insulin, especially if you're eating carbohydrates when you're not insulin sensitive, can create things like insulin resistance and can create inflammation by the buildup of fat around our midsections, which fat is not an innocuous thing. It's actually a living organ under our skin that secretes different toxins and hormones and things like that that get into our bloodstream and increase our levels of inflammation, causing heart disease and also neurological dysfunction and a whole host of other issues. Now, I've been telling you about this kind of stuff for a while. I've been explaining the importance of insulin sensitivity and the importance of not being insulin resistant. But for a lot of you, this is going to be a new concept. This is somebody who's saying that carbohydrates in general, not just sweet potato, not just sugar and cakes and cookies, but also sweet potatoes and the overconsumption of fruit and the overconsumption of any carbohydrate can lead to these types of dysfunctions. Now, what does that mean for us as bodybuilders? Because a lot of you are probably sitting back there and they're like, well, I don't really give a fuck if I'm not able to know who my sister is or my wife is when I'm 60. I don't care if I'm not going to recognize a family member. I'm going to get big and leave a huge corpse here on this earth. And, from time to time, I've thought that way too. But the fact of the matter is this: when something's affecting your brain, when something is affecting your internal organ function, when something is affecting the very processes that help to run your body, they also affect your ability to build muscle mass. And so what you need to think about here is, well, if these things are really messing up my systems that much, then are they really efficient muscle builders? Do I really need to be eating 400, 500, 600, 700, 800 grams of carbs a day in order to build muscle mass? The fact of the matter is you don't. If you eat carbohydrates, and I'm not telling you not to eat carbohydrates, Dr. Perlmutter recommends that you avoid carbohydrate intake as much as possible, but I'm not telling you that. What I am telling you, via what I know about building muscle, is that if you eat carbohydrates when you're insulin sensitive, then you're going to be able to process them that much more. If you limit your carb intake to times when you're insulin sensitive, then you are going to be able to process those nutrients much more efficiently. And you will be able to build more muscle mass because of that. If you don't eat carbohydrates when you're insulin sensitive, and you eat carbohydrates without restriction, and you eat them without consideration to how much you're eating in an effort to get huge, then you're really shooting yourself in the fucking foot, because these processes are affected by that consumption. You are basically making yourself more inefficient at building muscle. You're telling your body that you have to put on tons of fat in order to build muscle, when the fact of the matter is that you don't need to put on tons of fat in order to build muscle. The old-fashioned dirty bulks are dangerous. The idea that you need to consume calories without restriction is dangerous. And the overeating of carbohydrates is dangerous. For those of you who may be concerned about things like metabolic damage, or by going into starvation mode, or by going into some sort of state where you're going to be putting on fat or getting skinny fat because you're not eating carbohydrates, well, there are solutions to this, and I point to these in Getting to Shredded, and I point to these in Unapologetic Muscle. But to give you some information here without buying my books or anything like that, if you incorporate things like cheat meals every 72 hours during times of insulin sensitivity, or if you incorporate carbohydrate intake, moderate carbohydrate intake during times when you're insulin sensitive, you'll not only preserve your muscle mass, you'll enhance your ability to grow muscle mass while you either get leaner or you maintain your state of leanness while building muscle. That's all I got for today. Definitely check out Dr. Perlmutter's book. I highly encourage you all to read, and read beyond the realm of bodybuilding and fitness. Read about the human body. Read about the vessel that we are housed in, or you are housed in. Read about your own vessel. Well, I got my vessel. I like vessels. Either way, read about your own vessel. And if you got questions for me, hit me up at gettingtoshredded@gmail.com. Check me out on Instagram. Or check out my website. And I'll put links to both my ebooks down below. You don't have to buy them because I'm still putting out information here. But if you do, you'll get a lot of good information out of it. And of course, I will put my information down below for coaching. I already said that? Did I already say that? Doing a dance. Peace out.